Hello there, here we go again. From Tragedy to Triumph. Chapter 10. God's Leading into Bible College. Part 2. Had to check my notes over there. We settled in with Tom and his wife Claire and their family of children after he arrived at their home. We went to several of the meetings at the Bible College and were quite impressed with what we saw. The meetings were awesome. Elam was started as a Pentecostal Bible college, but when the charismatic movement began, they reached out to them also. I'm glad that they did. They had solid doctrine and they knew about flowing in the gifts of the Spirit. Some of the meetings were in the tabernacle where everybody would assemble as one large group, and some were set up in various locations where they could be a more relaxed atmosphere. There was more of a personal sharing in these smaller groups. Tom had invited me to one of these smaller meetings where he was assigned to attend. Our wives stayed home with the children during that particular meeting. There was opportunity to give to the students to share how the Lord led them to Elam. A number of students shared how the Lord directed them and supplied all the finances needed. I could feel faith rising up in me as I heard their testimony. I was getting excited. Yes, I thought, the Lord is bringing me here. The professor who was overseeing the meeting had invited a pastor he knew to hold communion. He stood up to speak. He said, I feel like the Lord wants me to share something. He continued to say, I'm so excited to hear how the Lord led all of you here and provided all the finances needed. But he didn't do that for me. I always wanted to go to Bible school, but every time I made arrangements to go, something would happen to stop me. He went on to say that after some time had passed, at each occasion, he saw the Lord's wisdom. It was as though you could have heard a pin drop. What a change in the atmosphere in the room. It was as all the faith had left the room. My heart was racing inside of me. I knew that word was for me. I wanted to go to Elam so much that in the process, I began running ahead of the Lord by not taking the time to hear clearly his word on the decision. I repented right there before the Lord and the rest of the people. I told them my story. Afterwards, the pastor looked at me and said, Brother, never compare what God is doing in your life with what he is doing in someone else. He works differently in each individual's life. That is because he has a special plan for each one of us. We went on and took communion. With tears running down my face, I told the Lord, you know that I want to come here, but if you decide that this is not where you want me, then I will not come. I will stay back in Pennsylvania and continue to pastor the church. I want your will for my life, not mine. We went back to Pennsylvania where I continued to help Brother Marlin pastor the church. The interesting thing I began to notice was how often I would hear references about Elam. I was reading my Bible about God leading his people out of Egypt. I came to the passage where it stated, and they left from Elam, Numbers 33, verse 10. It jumped out at me, Elam. I told a friend of mine about the incident. His remark to me was, it says they left Elam. I told him they had to go there before they could leave. I also was reading a Christian magazine, and there it was again, Elam. At a Mennonite meeting for pastors and their wives, one pastor said they were supporting 2 girls from Belize and were sending them to Elam. My ears perked up. Could it be that God was saying, yes, you can go to Elam? After talking to Brother Marlin and the congregation, it was decided that Snooks and I and our children would go to Elam. I believe that the Lord wanted us to go all along, but he wanted us to see that it was him leading us there and not simply a choice of our own. That way, whatever circumstances we faced, we could always say, God led us here, and if he led us here, then he has whatever we need for whatever occasion may arise. It was like the situation where God told Moses to throw down his rod. Moses threw it down and it turned into a serpent. The Lord then told him to pick it up again. It turned back into a rod again. Exodus chapter 4, verses 2 to 4. It wasn't that God didn't want Moses not to have the rod. God wanted him to have the rod, but he wanted Moses to see that he put his approval upon it. God would have Moses use that rod later on to accomplish what God had called him to do. Not only would Moses know that God's hand was upon that which he willingly laid down, but others would also know that God's approval was upon Moses also. Moses didn't want to lead the people out of Egypt. Just prior to God telling him to throw down his rod, Moses told God that the people wouldn't believe that God had sent him. Exodus chapter 4, verse 1. He does what God tells him to do in Exodus chapter 4, verse 2 to 4. And after he does that, God says in verse 5, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared unto thee. God had turned that ordinary looking rod in the hand of Moses into a super rod. It became the rod of God, chapter 4, verse 20 of Exodus. I like to say that he got a hot rod. It was an anointed rod. But you always want God to lead you, because if you just go by yourself, when times get hard, you're going to wonder if that's where I'm supposed to be. But if you know that God's led you there, you'll be able to stand. All right? The Lord bless you. Happy standing. God bless you.